My sister got pregnant by my fiancé. Then my family gave her my wedding, so I exposed the truth and watched everything collapse. My name is Lindsay, and I need to tell you about the worst thing that ever happened to me. Actually, scratch that. I need to tell you about the worst thing that was done to me by my own family. 3 weeks before my wedding, I was the happiest I had ever been. I was 28 years old, engaged to the man I had loved for 4 years, and planning the ceremony of my dreams. Everything was perfect. The venue was booked a beautiful garden estate outside the city. The dress had been altered and was hanging in my closet. Invitations had been sent to 200 guests. My younger sister had even agreed to be my maid of honor, which honestly surprised me because we had never been super close. But I thought maybe this would bring us together. I should have known better. It was a Thursday night. My parents had invited me over for dinner, which was not unusual. What was unusual was the tension in the room when I arrived. My dad could not look at me. My mom kept wringing her hands. And my sister, 23 years old and usually so bubbly and carefree, sat there with this strange, defiant look on her face. Then she dropped the bomb. She stood up in the middle of dinner, placed her hand on her still flat stomach, and announced that she was pregnant with my fiancé's baby and that they had been sleeping together for 6 months. 6 months. I remember the exact sound of my fork hitting the plate. I remember my mother gasping, but not saying anything to defend me. I remember my father telling me to calm down when I started screaming. But most of all, I remember my sister's face, completely blank. No remorse, no shame, nothing. She just stood there like she had announced what she wanted for dessert. My fiancé tried calling me 73 times that night. I did not answer once. My parents kept telling me we needed to talk this through as a family and that these things happen. These things happen. My sister seduced my fiancé, got pregnant, and these things just happen. The worst part was that within 2 weeks, my parents had completely switched sides. Suddenly, it was all about supporting my sister through her pregnancy. She was the victim somehow. Young, scared, vulnerable. Never mind that I was the one who had been betrayed. Never mind that she had destroyed my entire life without a second thought. And here is the part that still makes me physically ill. They used my wedding plans, all of them. The same venue I had booked and paid deposits for. The same florist. The same caterer. My mother actually called me and asked if I would mind if my sister used them, since everything was already arranged and it would be such a waste to cancel. I minded. I minded so much. I could not breathe. But they did it anyway. 2 months after my wedding was supposed to happen, my sister walked down the aisle in a white dress, pregnant with my ex-fiancé's child, at the venue I had chosen, with the flowers I had picked out, eating the menu I had selected. Only 3 people from my extended family refused to attend. My aunt on my father's side, my cousin, and my grandmother. Everyone else went. They smiled, congratulated the happy couple, and posted photos on social media like this was normal and beautiful, and not the most grotesque betrayal imaginable. I spent that day in my apartment alone, drinking wine and looking at the wedding dress still hanging in my closet. The dress I was supposed to wear. The life I was supposed to have. My parents kept calling. They kept trying to get me to move past this and be happy for them. Move past it. They had stolen everything from me and expected me to just swallow it and smile. My mother actually said, and I will never forget this, that I was being selfish for making my sister's pregnancy about me. That was when I realized the truth. My family did not just enable what happened, they endorsed it. They chose her. They chose the person who betrayed me over the person who had been betrayed. So I made a choice too. I cut them off. I stopped answering calls. I blocked them on social media. I moved to a different part of the city. For the first time in my life, I was completely alone. And somehow, that felt better than being part of a family that could do this to me. But this is not a story about how I stayed broken. This is a story about what happened next. And trust me, it gets so much worse before it gets better. The next 3 years were brutal. I am not going to sugarcoat it. I spent the first 6 months in therapy twice a week, trying to unpack how my entire family could betray me like that. My therapist kept asking if I wanted to work toward forgiveness. I kept telling her I wanted to work toward not thinking about them every single day. I threw myself into work. I got promoted twice. I started traveling for business. I made new friends who did not know my history and did not ask questions when I said I was not close with my family. I built a completely new life, brick by brick. It was exhausting, but it was necessary. Around the 2-year mark, something shifted. I woke up one morning and realized I had gone an entire week without thinking about my sister or my ex-fiancé. It felt like finally being able to breathe after being underwater. That was when I met him. His name was Owen, and we met at a conference in Seattle. He was there representing his company. He had started his own consulting firm 5 years earlier and had built it into something impressive. We ended up sitting next to each other at a networking dinner, and he made me laugh. Actually laugh. Not that polite social laugh, but the kind that comes from somewhere genuine. We talked for 4 hours that night about work, about travel, about everything except families. When he asked for my number, I almost said no. I was not ready. But something in his eyes made me change my mind. We dated long distance for 8 months before he asked me to move in with him. I was terrified. The last time I had trusted someone completely, it had destroyed me. But Owen was patient. He never pushed. He let me set the pace for everything. When I finally told him about what happened with my family, we were sitting on his balcony at 2 o'clock in the morning. I had been avoiding it for months, but he deserved to know why I flinched every time he mentioned his own sister, and why I changed the subject whenever family came up. I expected him to be shocked or uncomfortable. Instead, he just held my hand and said, "That explains so much about your strength. You rebuilt yourself from nothing. That is extraordinary." He proposed 10 months after we met. No pressure, no expectations. Just a simple question on a random Tuesday night while we were cooking dinner together. Of course I said yes. We planned everything ourselves. No family input, no drama. No traditions we did not choose. We got married in Italy, just the two of us and 12 close friends. It was small and perfect and entirely ours. I wore a dress I picked out alone. We wrote our own vows. I cried during the ceremony, but they were happy tears. I sent my parents an invitation, not because I wanted them there, but because I wanted them to see that I had moved on. I wanted them to see that I had built something beautiful without them. They did not come. My mother called 2 days before the wedding and said they could not abandon my sister during such a difficult time. Apparently, her marriage was already struggling and she needed their support. I hung up before she finished talking. Owen asked if I was okay. I told him I was better than okay. I was free. But life has a way of testing you right when you think you have it figured out. We started trying for kids about 6 months after the wedding. I was 31, Owen was 35. We were both ready. Month after month, nothing happened. After a year of trying, we went to see a specialist. That was when we found out I had fertility issues. Nothing catastrophic, nothing that meant we could not have kids, but it was not going to be easy. The doctor recommended treatments, monitoring, interventions. It would be expensive and exhausting and emotionally draining. Owen squeezed my hand during that appointment and told the doctor we would do whatever it took. We started the treatments, injections, appointments, tests. Hope followed by disappointment, followed by more hope. It was brutal in a completely different way than what I had been through before. This was not about betrayal. It was about wanting something so desperately and having no control over whether you would get it. During one of the harder months after another negative test, I broke down. I told Owen maybe this was punishment for cutting off my family. Maybe I did not deserve to be a mother. Maybe I was too damaged. He looked at me with more intensity than I had ever seen and said, Do not you dare let them take this from you too. Do not give them that power. This is not about them. This is about us. He was right. This was our life, our journey, and we were going to fight for it together. What I did not know then was that my old life was about to come crashing back in the worst possible way. The phone call came on a Sunday afternoon, 4 years after I had cut them off. My father. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. He sounded older, tired. He asked if we could talk, really talk, about trying to repair the family. He said it had been long enough. That life was too short for this kind of division, that my mother missed me terribly. I wanted to hang up, but Owen was watching me, and I could see in his face that he thought I should at least hear them out. Not for them, for me. So I would not always wonder, what if? That was how I ended up agreeing to a dinner. Neutral location, both families present. My parents, my sister and her husband, yes, they had actually gotten married, and Owen and me. The restaurant was expensive and quiet, the kind of place where people do not make scenes. I was so naive for thinking that would protect us. My sister showed up with her 2 kids, a boy who had just turned 4 and a girl who was 2. Both of them looked exactly like my ex-fiancé, which was like being stabbed every time I glanced at them. The boy had his eyes. The girl had his smile. I felt physically ill. She looked different, tired. There were dark circles under her eyes, and she had gained weight. Her husband, the man I still cannot call my ex-fiancé without wanting to break something, looked uncomfortable from the moment they sat down. He could not meet my eyes. He kept staring at his plate like it might save him. My parents tried to keep things light at first. They asked about Owen's business, complimented my hair, made small talk that felt like walking on broken glass. My sister stayed quiet, managing her kids who were surprisingly well behaved. Then dessert arrived, and everything went to hell. My mother asked in that careful tone people use when they are pretending something is not loaded, if Owen and I were planning to have children soon. Before I could answer, my sister laughed. Actually laughed. "Good luck with that," she said, cutting her son's cake. "I heard you were having trouble. That must be so hard, wanting something you cannot have." The table went silent. Owen's hand found mine under the table, squeezing so hard it hurt. "Excuse me," I managed to get out. She looked up, feigning innocence. "What I am just saying, it must be difficult, especially at your age. I mean, I got pregnant the first time just thinking about it. All 3 times, actually. 3 times. "You are pregnant again," my mother gasped, delighted. My sister smiled, placing her hand on her still flat stomach. 12 weeks. We were going to announce it later, but yes, another boy. We are so blessed. I felt like I was going to be sick. Owen's jaw was clenched so tight, I thought his teeth might crack. "That is wonderful news," my father said, shooting me a look that clearly meant I should say something supportive. I could not. I literally could not form words. My sister was not done. She turned to Owen. "You must be so patient. I mean, if my husband could not give me children, I do not know what I would do. But I guess when you really love someone, you stick it out, right?" It was the way she looked at him when she said it. The slight smile. The implication. Owen stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. "We are leaving." "Oh, come on," my sister said. "I was just making conversation. Do not be so sensitive." My mother reached for my arm. "Please let us not ruin the evening. Your sister did not mean anything by it. You know how she is. She just speaks without thinking sometimes." That excuse, that same excuse they had been making for her my entire life. Something inside me snapped. I did not sit back down. I stood there looking at my sister, really looking at her for the first time in years. And I saw exactly what she was. Not my family. Not someone who had made a mistake, a person who had deliberately destroyed my life and felt absolutely nothing about it. "You want to talk about sensitivity?" I said quietly. Too quietly. "Let us talk about it. Let us talk about how you seduced my fiancé 6 months before my wedding." Let us talk about how you got pregnant and announced it like you had won some prize. Let us talk about how you stole my wedding, my venue, my plans, everything. And nobody in this family said a single word to stop you. Lindsay, my father warned. No, I am done being quiet. I am done being the reasonable one. I am done pretending any of this is okay. I turned to my parents. You chose her. The moment she announced that pregnancy, you chose her. You did not ask if I was okay. You did not defend me. You just decided I should get over it and move on because it was easier than holding her accountable. My mother had tears in her eyes. We were trying to keep the family together by sacrificing me, by using my wedding plans for her, by expecting me to just swallow it and smile. I laughed, but it came out harsh. You did not keep the family together. You cut me out and pretended that was the same thing. My sister rolled her eyes. God, are you still on about that? It has been years. Get over it. Get over it, I repeated. You destroyed my life. You betrayed me in the worst way possible, and you have never once apologized. Not once. Because I am not sorry, she said simply. Her husband tried to grab her arm, but she shook him off. You want to know the truth? He was never really yours. If he was, he would not have come to me. Men do not cheat unless they are not getting what they need at home. Owen moved to stand next to me, his presence solid and grounding. We are done here. But my sister was not finished. She looked Owen up and down in a way that made my skin crawl. You know, if you ever get tired of waiting around for damaged goods, you know where to find me. I am clearly very fertile. The table erupted. My father stood up. My mother gasped. Owen's face went dark with rage. But before anyone else could speak, I laughed. Really laughed. The kind of laugh that comes from somewhere bottomless. You think that was flirting? I said to my sister. You think that makes you desirable? You are pathetic. You stole my fiancé because you could not stand that I had something you did not. And now you are sitting here, pregnant with your third child in a marriage that is clearly falling apart, trying to seduce my husband because you still cannot stand that I am happy. Her husband was staring at her in horror. Good. Let him see who he had really married. You want to talk about damaged goods? I continued. Look in the mirror. You are 27 years old, stuck with a man who barely looks at you, raising kids in a family that is built on betrayal. Your own son is going to grow up knowing his father cheated on his aunt to be with his mother. That is going to be his origin story. Good luck explaining that. That is enough, my father said. But his voice had no force behind it. I turned to him. You are right. It is enough. I am done. I came here tonight because you asked me to. Because some small part of me hoped you would finally take responsibility for what you did. Then I looked at her husband, that man I had once thought I would spend my life with. He was staring at his plate, red-faced and silent. And you do not even have the courage to speak. You have been sitting there all night like a scolded child, not defending your wife, not defending yourself, not doing anything. You are exactly the coward I always suspected you were. He opened his mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to defend himself. I held up my hand. Save it. Whatever you were going to say, I do not care. You are irrelevant. You were irrelevant the moment I left that apartment 4 years ago. You are just a bad memory, and you do not get to be anything more than that. I grabbed my purse. Owen was already standing ready to leave with me. This family is dead to me, I said, looking at each of them in turn. Not because of the betrayal. I could have eventually forgiven that. But because none of you thought I deserved better. None of you stood up for me. And even now, even tonight, you are still choosing her. My mother was crying. Please do not do this. I am not doing anything. You did this years ago. I am just finally accepting it. We walked out of that restaurant and I did not look back. Owen drove us home in silence. When we got to our apartment, I broke down. Not because I was sad, because I was free. Finally, completely free. But freedom, I would learn, comes with its own complicated price. 2 weeks after that disaster of a dinner, I was still processing everything. Owen kept telling me I had done the right thing, that standing up for myself was healthy, that cutting them off permanently was the only way forward. But whenever I tried to sleep, I replayed the whole evening and felt this toxic mixture of vindication and rage. I needed to talk about it, but I had already exhausted Owen's patience with the topic, and my therapist could not see me for another week. So I did what thousands of people do when they need to vent. I went online. I found a support group for people dealing with family estrangement. It was anonymous, just usernames and stories. Everyone there had some variation of family trauma. I read through dozens of posts about narcissistic parents, abusive siblings, toxic relatives who had done unforgivable things. It was oddly comforting knowing I was not alone. So I posted. I wrote out the entire story. The betrayal, the wedding, the 4 years of silence, the dinner, everything. I was careful. I did not use names. I did not mention the specific city. I kept details vague enough that it could have been anyone's story. It was just supposed to be a vent, a way to get it out of my system. The support was immediate and overwhelming. Hundreds of comments from people telling me I had done the right thing, that my family was toxic, that I deserved better. It felt good, really good, like validation I had not realized I desperately needed. I checked the post obsessively for days. Every new comment fed something in me that I did not want to examine too closely. 3 weeks later, my aunt called me, the one who had refused to go to my sister's wedding. "Lindsay," she said carefully, "I need to ask you something. Did you post about your sister online?" My blood went cold. "What?" "There is a story going around town about a woman who got pregnant with her sister's fiancé and stole her wedding. Everyone is talking about it. The details are too specific. It has to be about your family." I felt like I might throw up. I posted in an anonymous support group. I did not use any names. How would anyone? Someone must have recognized enough details and started connecting dots. You know how people are. They piece things together and suddenly it is all over social media group chats everywhere. It has gotten back to your sister. "Good," I said before I could stop myself. My aunt was quiet for a long moment. "Lindsay, I understand you are angry. God knows you have every right to be. But this is going to have consequences." She was right. The consequences started rolling in fast. My sister lost her job first. She had been working at a local medical office, and apparently the story spread through her workplace like wildfire. Her boss called her in and said something about maintaining professional reputation and not being a good fit for their family-oriented practice. She was let go within a week. Then the social consequences hit. People started recognizing her at the grocery store, at her kids' school, around town. She had gone from anonymous to notorious. Her husband's family stopped speaking to them. Some of their couple friends suddenly got very busy whenever they tried to make plans. I heard all of this through my aunt, who heard it through the family grapevine. And I listened. I listened to every detail with this dark satisfaction that scared me. "They are talking about moving," my aunt told me during one call. "Your sister cannot show her face anywhere without people whispering. Someone actually approached her at the pharmacy and told her she should be ashamed of herself." I should have felt bad. I should have felt guilty that my anonymous post had spiraled into public humiliation. But I did not. "Not really. She should be ashamed of herself," I said. "She destroyed my life and felt nothing. Now people know what kind of person she is. That is not my fault. That is just truth catching up." But even as I said it, something felt off. Wrong. I had wanted her to face consequences, yes, but watching it happen, hearing about her losing everything, seeing her life fall apart the way mine had, it did not feel as good as I thought it would. Owen found me one night scrolling through social media looking for mentions of the story, searching my sister's name to see what people were saying about her. "What are you doing?" he asked gently. Just looking. You have been looking for hours. He sat down next to me. This is not healthy. She is losing everything, I said, still staring at the screen. Her job, her friends, her reputation, everything. And how does that make you feel? I did not answer because the truth was complicated. I felt satisfied. I felt vindicated. But I also felt something darker, something that made me uncomfortable with myself. I felt powerful in a way that did not sit right. I did not name her, I said finally. I did not do this to her. This is just consequences of her own actions. Owen took the phone from my hands. Maybe, but you are spending every free moment watching those consequences unfold. That is not moving on. That is obsession. He was right. I knew he was right, but I could not stop. My sister tried to sue me. That was how desperate things got for her. She hired a lawyer and filed a defamation lawsuit, claiming I had posted lies about her online that had destroyed her reputation and caused her to lose her job. The lawyer sent an official letter to my address. Somehow, she had tracked down where I lived, which was creepy in itself. Owen and I consulted with an attorney. He read through everything, looked at my anonymous post, and basically laughed. She has no case, he said. First, you never named her. Second, truth is an absolute defense against defamation. Third, she would have to prove that your post directly caused her specific damages, which is nearly impossible when it was anonymous and the spread was organic. The lawsuit never even made it past preliminary filing. The judge threw it out. Not enough evidence, no direct connection, case dismissed. When my aunt told me, I felt this rush of triumph. She had tried to come after me legally and failed. It was another loss for her, another win for me. But that same week, something else happened. Something that should have been purely joyful. I got pregnant. After 2 years of treatments, failed attempts, hormones, disappointments, finally, there were 2 lines on a test. I stared at it in the bathroom for 10 minutes straight, crying, unable to believe it was real. When I showed Owen, he picked me up and spun me around, and we both cried together. This was everything we had wanted, everything we had fought for. We were going to have a baby. I should have been the happiest person alive. Instead, I found myself obsessively checking social media for updates about my sister. It became a compulsion. Every morning. Every night. Sometimes multiple times during the day. I would search for her name, look at her profile, scroll through comments and gossip pages. I needed to know what was happening to her. If things were getting worse. If she was suffering enough. Owen noticed. Of course he noticed. 3 weeks after we found out about the pregnancy, he came home from work and found me on my laptop, deep in some discussion thread about my sister again. He closed the laptop, not aggressively, but firmly. We need to talk. I knew that tone. About what? About the fact that you are pregnant with our child, and you are spending more time obsessing over your sister than celebrating this miracle we have been given. I am not obsessing. Yes, you are. You check her social media every day, multiple times a day. You are in these gossip groups, reading every comment, tracking every consequence. You are consumed by watching her life fall apart. She deserves it, I said defensively. Maybe, probably. But that is not the point. He sat down next to me. The point is that she is still controlling your life. You cut her off 4 years ago, but she is more present now than ever because you cannot stop watching her destruction. That is not fair. Is it not? He took my hand. Lindsay, you are pregnant. We are having a baby. This is supposed to be the happiest time of our lives. But every time I look at you, you are on your phone or your laptop monitoring her. She is stealing this joy from you, and you are letting her. I wanted to argue, but tears were streaming down my face because I knew he was right. I just need to know she is facing consequences, I whispered. After everything she did, I need to know she is suffering the way I suffered. And then what? What happens after she has suffered enough? Will that fix what she took from you? Will that give you back those 4 years? Will that make you happy? I could not answer. He pulled me into his arms. You are pregnant with our son, Lindsay. And I am terrified that when he is born, you are going to be so busy watching her that you will miss being present for him. That hit me like ice water. The thought of holding my baby while secretly checking my phone to see if my sister was still suffering made me feel sick. I do not know how to stop, I admitted. I know, but you have to try. Because this obsession, it is not justice. It is not healing. It is just another form of letting her control you. That night, I lay awake thinking about what he said. I thought about my sister losing her job, being gossiped about struggling. And I thought about the satisfaction I had felt hearing about it. That dark, ugly satisfaction that was eating away at the person I wanted to be. I had spent 4 years building a new life. I had found love. I had gotten married. I was finally pregnant. I had everything I had ever wanted, but I could not enjoy any of it because I was too busy making sure she was miserable. Owen was right. She was still controlling me, just in a different way. But knowing something and changing it are two very different things. 3 years passed. 3 years of sleepless nights, and first words, and tiny shoes, and everything that comes with being a mother. My son was born healthy. 8 pounds, dark hair, Owen's eyes, and he was perfect. Absolutely perfect. I had gotten better. Not completely. I still occasionally found myself wondering about my sister. I still had moments where I wanted to check on her downfall. But Owen's words had stuck with me. I focused on my baby, on my marriage, on building this new chapter of my life. I thought I had moved past it. I really did. Then I saw him. I was at the grocery store with my son in the cart. He was 3 now, chattering away about everything he saw. When I turned down an aisle, I froze. My nephew. The 4-year-old boy I had seen at that disastrous dinner years ago. He was older now, obviously, around 7. He was with my mother, who looked like she had aged a decade. I should have left. I should have turned around and gone a different direction. But I stood there, hidden partially by a display, watching them. My mother was buying generic brands of everything, the cheapest options. Her cart was full of basics, nothing extra. My nephew looked thin. Not dangerously so, but like he was not getting enough. His clothes were worn but clean. They did not see me. I made sure of it. But I watched my mother counting change at the register. I watched my nephew ask for candy and watched her have to say no. I watched them leave with their meager groceries. I should not have done what I did next, but I could not help myself. I called my aunt that evening after my son went to bed. "How bad is it?" I asked, without preamble. She knew immediately what I meant. She sighed. "Bad. Your sister's husband left her about 6 months ago. Finally had enough, I guess. He has the kids on weekends, but pays minimal support. She is living with your parents with all 3 children. She cannot find work anywhere. Her reputation is too damaged in this town." "What is she doing for money?" My aunt was quiet for a long moment. "You do not want to know. Tell me." "She has been trying to sell content online. Pictures, that kind of content. It is not going well." I felt sick. Not satisfied. Sick. That kind of content. I am not going to spell it out, Lindsay, but yes, she is desperate. Your parents are supporting 4 people on their retirement income. It is not enough. She is doing what she thinks she has to do. I ended the call feeling hollow. This was not satisfaction. This was watching someone spiral into something dark and desperate, and knowing on some level that I had contributed to pushing her there. 2 weeks later, my aunt called again. Her voice was shaky. "It leaked," she said. "Someone from town found her content and recognized her. It is spreading everywhere. The photos are on gossip sites being shared in local groups. Everyone has seen them." I thought I would feel triumphant. This was ultimate humiliation. Exactly what part of me had wanted. But instead, I felt nothing, just empty. Her kids, my aunt continued, her voice cracking. They are being bullied. Kids at school found the photos somehow. They are showing them to other kids, mocking them. That was when it stopped being abstract. I saw him again a few days later. Same grocery store, same time of day. But this time, my nephew was crying, really crying. The kind of desperate sobs that come from deep hurt. My mother was trying to calm him down in the parking lot, but he was inconsolable. A group of kids his age were pointing and laughing from across the lot. That is him. His mom is the one in those pictures. I stood by my car, my own son oblivious in his seat, and watched my nephew fall apart. I watched him scream at those kids. I watched my mother trying to shield him. I watched the other parents pull their children away while shooting disgusted looks at my mother. My son said something from his car seat, but I could not process it. I was locked on that scene. On a 7-year-old boy whose life was being destroyed because of his mother's choices, because of desperation, because of a chain of consequences that led back in some way to me. The kids eventually left. My mother got my nephew into the car. I could still hear his crying from across the parking lot. I got in my car and drove home on autopilot. When Owen came home that evening, I told him what I had seen. That child did nothing wrong, I said, my voice shaking. He is 7 years old, and his classmates have seen explicit photos of his mother. He is going to carry that for the rest of his life. That is not your fault, Owen said carefully. Is it not I posted that story? I set this in motion. She made her choices, all of them. But her son did not. He did not choose any of this. I looked at our sleeping child. If something like that happened to our son, I would want to die. I would want to burn the world down to protect him. Owen pulled me close. You are not responsible for her choices or their consequences. Maybe not legally, maybe not directly, but that night I could not shake the image of that little boy crying in a parking lot because of something I had helped unleash. The nightmare started about a week after I saw my nephew crying in that parking lot. In them, I was the villain, not my sister, me. I would watch myself from outside my body, smiling as I destroyed someone's life. Sometimes it was my sister. Sometimes it was her children. Sometimes it was strangers whose faces morphed into people I loved. I would wake up gasping, covered in sweat, unable to shake the feeling that the dream version of me was more honest than the waking one. Owen would hold me when I woke up like that. But he stopped asking what the nightmares were about. I think he knew. I think we both knew I was processing something I did not want to face. Then one afternoon, my son asked me a question that broke something inside me. We were coloring together at the kitchen table. He was 3.5. At that age where they pick up everything and ask about everything, he had been unusually quiet, concentrating on staying inside the lines of his drawing. "Mommy," he said without looking up, "what is an ant?" My hand froze mid-stroke. What? An ant? Grandma said something about an ant when we were at her house last week. She was talking to Grandpa. What is it? My mother-in-law. She must have been discussing something with Owen's father. My son had overheard. It is your mom or dad's sister, I said carefully. Do I have one? I should have told him the truth. I should have said yes, that he had an aunt he had never met, that it was complicated, that maybe someday I would explain, but I did not. No, I said, you do not have an aunt. He nodded, accepting this completely, and went back to coloring. But I sat there feeling like the worst person alive. I had just lied to my child, lied about something fundamental about our family. And the worst part was how easily the lie had come out. That night after my son was asleep, I broke down. Owen found me crying in the bathroom. I told him I do not have a sister, I said. He asked about aunts, and I lied to him. I looked my son in the face and lied. Owen was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something I will never forget. You are becoming what you hate. I looked up at him, shocked. I have watched you for 3 years, he continued, his voice gentle but firm. I have watched you monitor her destruction, feel satisfaction at her suffering, convince yourself it is all justified because of what she did to you. And now you are lying to our son to maintain this narrative where she does not exist. You are not healing Lindsay. You are becoming bitter. You are becoming just as toxic as she was. That is not fair. Is it not? She hurt you? Yes, terribly. But you have spent years hurting her back, even if it was indirect, and now that pain is starting to affect our son. When does it stop? When does the revenge end and the healing begin? I wanted to argue, but everything he said was true, and we both knew it. I do not know how to let it go, I whispered. I know, but you have to try. Because if you do not, you are going to pass this hatred down to our son. He is going to grow up learning that family betrayal is unforgivable, that revenge is justified, that lying is acceptable if it protects the narrative you want to maintain. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Late. Too late for a normal call. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. It was my father. Lindsay, he said, and his voice was wrecked. It is your mother. She has been diagnosed with cancer. Pancreatic. Stage 4. The world tilted. What? They give her less than a year, maybe 6 months. She wanted me to call you. She wants to see you. I could not speak, could not think. Cancer. Terminal. 6 months. I know you are angry, my father continued. I know we do not have a relationship anymore, but she is your mother. She is dying. Please. I hung up without answering. I stood there holding the phone, trying to process what I had just heard. Owen was watching me. What happened? My mother has cancer. Terminal. Less than a year. He pulled me into his arms. I did not cry. I just stood there, numb, thinking about all the years of silence, all the years of anger, all the bridges I had burned and convinced myself I was fine with. What am I supposed to do? I asked. I do not know, Owen said honestly. But whatever you decide, you have to live with it. If you do not see her and she dies, you cannot take that back. And if you do see her, you have to be prepared for what that might mean. I thought about my son's question, about my lie, about my nephew crying in a parking lot, about years of obsession and revenge disguised as justice. I have become someone I do not recognize, I said quietly. Then change. Owen said simply, it is not too late, but it has to start now. That night, I lay awake thinking about my mother dying, about my sister struggling, about consequences and choices, and about the difference between justice and cruelty, about whether it was possible to heal from betrayal without becoming exactly what you hate. I did not have answers, but for the first time in years, I was asking the right questions. My father called again 3 days later. I had been avoiding thinking about the first call, pushing it down, pretending I had more time to decide what to do. We need to talk, he said. Your mother wants to make a request. I met him at a coffee shop, neutral territory. He looked older than I remembered, thinner, grayer, worn down by the weight of everything that had happened to our family. She has about 6 months, he said without preamble. The doctors were clear. It is aggressive. There is no treatment that will make a difference at this stage. I stirred my coffee, not drinking it, just needing something to do with my hands. She does not want you to forgive your sister, he continued. She knows that is not something she can ask. But she has one request. When the time comes, when she passes, she wants you both there, at the funeral. She does not want to be buried with her daughters still at war. That is not fair, I said immediately. I know. She is asking me to stand next to the person who destroyed my life. To pretend we are a family. To perform grief while the person who betrayed me is there, doing the same thing. She is not asking for a performance. She is not asking you to reconcile. She is asking for 2 hours of your life where you are in the same room for her sake. That is all. I laughed bitterly. That is all, Dad. You have no idea what you are asking. I do, he said quietly. I know what she did. I know we handled it wrong. I know we chose her when we should have supported you both differently. I know all of it. But this is not about rewriting history. It is about giving your mother peace before she dies. What about my peace? When do I get that? He did not have an answer for that. That night, Owen and I had the longest conversation we had had in months. I told him about my father's request, about the funeral, about the impossible position I was in. If you do not go, you will regret it, Owen said. Not because of them, because of you. You will spend the rest of your life wondering if you made the right choice. And if I do go, if I stand there next to her and have to watch her cry and pretend to be the grieving daughter, then you will know you did everything you could. You will know you gave your mother what she asked for in her final days. I hate this, I said. I hate that she is putting this on me, that I have to choose between my own pain and her peace. I know. But that is the choice, and only you can make it. The next day, I did something I should have done years ago. I made an appointment with a therapist, not the one I had seen after the initial betrayal, a new one. Someone who could help me process this fresh hell. Her office was calm, neutral colors, soft lighting, a box of tissues strategically placed. I told her everything: the betrayal, the wedding, the years of silence, the dinner, the post that leaked, my sister's downfall, my nephew crying, the nightmares, the lie to my son, and now this impossible request. She listened without judgment, taking occasional notes. What do you want? She asked when I finished. I do not know. That is not true. You might not want to admit it, but somewhere inside, you know what you want. I was quiet for a long time. I want it to stop hurting. I want to be able to think about my family without feeling this rage. I want my son to grow up without inheriting this darkness. I want to be free of her, of all of them. And you think seeing your mother before she dies will give you that? I do not know. Maybe. Or maybe it will just hurt more. There is no right answer here, the therapist said gently. But consider this. What will haunt you more? Going and risking pain? Or not going and living with that question forever? That night, I sat down and wrote a letter to my sister. I do not know why. I was not planning to send it, but I needed to get the words out. I wrote about the betrayal, about how it had destroyed me, about the years of anger and obsession, about watching her life fall apart and feeling satisfied, then feeling sick about that satisfaction, about seeing her son crying and realizing that revenge does not heal anything. It just creates more pain. I wrote that I did not forgive her, that I might never forgive her. But I was tired of hating her, tired of watching her suffer, tired of letting what she did control my entire existence. I sealed the letter and put it in my desk drawer. I did not know if I would ever send it, but writing it felt like something. 3 days later, I called my father. I will see her, I said. Mom, I will visit her in the hospital. But I am doing it for me, not for you or for her or for some fantasy of family reunion. I am doing it because I need to know I did everything I could before it is too late. Thank you, he said, his voice breaking. I am not promising anything beyond that visit. I am not promising I will come to the funeral. I am not promising I will ever speak to you or my sister again after this. I am just promising this one visit. That is all we are asking. But we both knew that was not true. This one visit would lead to more requests, more pressure, more complicated emotions. But I would deal with that when it came. For now, I was taking one step. Just one. Not for them. For me. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and desperation. I had been in hospitals before for my son's birth for routine appointments, but this felt different, heavier, like the building itself knew why people came here and mourned with them. I was supposed to meet my father in the lobby at 2 o'clock. He would take me to my mother's room. Controlled visit, limited time, no drama. That was the plan. But plans never work out the way you think they will. I got there early, anxious, and unable to wait at home any longer. Owen had offered to come with me, but I needed to do this alone. I sat in the waiting area, mindlessly scrolling through my phone, trying not to think about what I would say to my mother. Then I heard a child's voice. "Grandpa, I am scared." I looked up. My nephew, the 7-year-old I had seen crying in that parking lot. He was sitting across the waiting room with my father, wearing clothes that looked too big for him. His face was drawn and pale. Next to him was my sister. We saw each other at the same moment. Her eyes widened. Mine probably did too. Neither of us had expected this. My father looked between us, clearly panicking about the accidental encounter. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. We just stared at each other across a hospital waiting room. Years of pain and anger and betrayal hanging in the air between us. My sister looked terrible. Not in a petty, satisfying way. In a genuinely concerning way. She had lost weight. Her hair was pulled back messily. There were dark circles under her eyes so pronounced they looked like bruises. She looked defeated, broken. Her other 2 children were not there, probably with their father for the weekend. Just her oldest son, the one born from my betrayal, sitting there, terrified about his dying grandmother. And then he looked at me, really looked at me. I saw the recognition in his eyes, the way children process new information by examining faces. "Dad," he said quietly, tugging on my father's sleeve. "Who is that lady?" My father's face went pale. "That is..." "You are my aunt," the boy said suddenly, his eyes going wide. "Are you not? You look like Mom. And Grandpa talks about 2 daughters sometimes." The waiting room went silent. My sister had tears streaming down her face. My father looked like he wanted to disappear. And I stood there frozen, staring at this child who had just realized he had an aunt he had never known about. "Yes," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "I am your aunt. Why have I not met you before?" It was such a simple question. Such an innocent question. And there was no good answer. "It is complicated," I managed. "Did you and Mom have a fight?" My sister made a sound, something between a sob and a gasp. She stood up abruptly. I need some air." She practically ran toward the hallway, her shoulders shaking. My father started to go after her, then stopped looking, torn between his daughter and his grandson. The boy looked confused and scared. "Did I say something wrong?" "No," I said quickly. "No, you did not say anything wrong." I should have left. I should have walked away, but I found myself sitting down next to him instead. "Your grandma is very sick," I said gently. "That is scary for everyone. Your mom is upset about that, not about you. Is she going to die?" The bluntness of children. "Yes," I said honestly. "Probably soon." He was quiet, processing this. Then he asked, "Are you upset too?" "Yes, very upset. Even though you and Mom had a fight." "Even though." He nodded like this made sense in his child's logic. "Sometimes I fight with my brother, but I still love him." The simplicity of it, the innocence. He had no idea about the magnitude of what had happened between his mother and me. To him, it was just a fight between sisters that had gone on too long. "That is very wise," I said. My sister came back then. She had wiped her face, but her eyes were red and swollen. She saw me sitting with her son and stopped, like she was not sure if she should intervene. "Mom," the boy said, "this is my aunt. Her name is..." He looked at me, realizing he did not know. "Lindsay," I said. "Lindsay," he repeated. "That is a nice name." My sister and I locked eyes. For the first time in 7 years, we really looked at each other, not with anger, not with hatred, just with the weight of everything we had done to each other, everything we had lost, everything we had destroyed. She looked like she wanted to say something. I probably did too, but neither of us spoke. My father cleared his throat. "Your mother is asking for you. Both of you. Both." Of course, this had been the plan all along, had it not. Get us both here. Force us into the same space. My sister picked up her purse. Come on, she said to her son. Then to me, you go first. I will wait. No, I heard myself say. We will go together. It was not forgiveness. It was not reconciliation. It was just exhaustion. Exhaustion with the fighting, with the hatred, with carrying this weight. We walked down that hospital corridor side by side, not speaking, not looking at each other, but together. And behind us, my nephew held my father's hand and asked if Grandma would want to know he had met his aunt today. I did not have an answer for that. I did not have answers for anything anymore. My mother died 2 months later. Peacefully, they said. Though I am not sure what peaceful means when you are dying of cancer. I visited her 3 more times in those 2 months. We talked about small things. My son, the weather, memories from when I was young. We never talked about the betrayal. We never talked about my sister. We just existed in the same space, and maybe that was enough. The funeral was exactly what you would expect. A church service. A eulogy my father delivered that made everyone cry. Hymns, flowers, people I had not seen in years offering condolences and carefully not mentioning the family drama they definitely knew about. My sister sat on the opposite side of the church with her 3 children. We made eye contact once when I arrived. She nodded. I nodded back. That was it. Owen stayed close to me throughout the service, one hand always on my back or holding mine. My son was too young to really understand what was happening, but he was quiet and well-behaved, sensing the weight of the occasion. At the cemetery, we stood on opposite sides of the grave as they lowered the casket. My father stood between us, physically and metaphorically, trying to bridge a gap that seemed impossible. People filed past, dropping flowers, saying final goodbyes. Eventually, everyone left. My father took my nephew and the other kids back to the car. They needed to use the bathroom, needed snacks, needed a break from grief. Owen took my son to look at other headstones, giving me space. And suddenly, it was just me and my sister standing on opposite sides of our mother's grave. The silence stretched. I thought about walking away. This did not have to happen. We could maintain our distance even in death. But then, she spoke. I destroyed everything. Her voice was barely audible. I know that. I have known it for years. I do not expect your forgiveness. I do not deserve it. I looked at her across that fresh grave. Really looked at her. She was 30 years old, but she looked 40. Life had been brutal to her in ways that showed. I became you, I said, surprising myself. Trying to destroy you. I became exactly what I hated. She looked up, confused. That post, I continued. The one that leaked. I did that. I knew what would happen. Maybe not the specific details, but I knew it would hurt you. I wanted it to hurt you. I deserved it. Maybe, but here is the thing. I knew about the photos when they leaked. I found out before most people. I could have warned you. I could have tried to help you take them down before they spread too far. But I did not. I made a choice to let it happen. To let you suffer. She was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. I watched you lose everything. I said your job, your reputation, your marriage, and I felt satisfied. I told myself it was justice, but it was not. It was revenge. And the worst part is, my own voice broke. The worst part is, I did not care who else got hurt. Your kids, your son. I saw him crying in that parking lot because other kids had seen those photos of you. And even then, part of me thought you deserved it. I did deserve it, she whispered. But you are right. My son did not. None of my kids deserve to suffer because of my mistakes. We stood there, both crying now, on opposite sides of our mother's grave. I cannot forgive you, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. What you did, it changed me. It broke something in me that I do not know if I can fix. I know. But I cannot keep doing this. This hatred, this obsession with your destruction, it is poisoning me. It is affecting my marriage, my son, my entire life. I have become someone I do not recognize, someone cruel. She wiped her face. I am sorry. I have been sorry for years, but I did not know how to say it. I did not think I had the right to say it. I destroyed your life because I was jealous and selfish and stupid. And I've spent every day since then paying for it. Your kids should not have to pay for it too. No, they should not. But they are. My oldest knows the story now. Kids at school made sure of that. He knows his father was engaged to you. He knows I am the reason you do not talk to us. He is 7 years old, and he carries that shame. I thought about my own son, about the lie I had told him, about the legacy of pain we were passing down. I pulled the letter from my purse, the one I had written months ago. I had been carrying it since then, not sure what to do with it. This is for you, I said, walking around the grave to hand it to her. I do not know if it will help. It is not forgiveness. It is not reconciliation. It is just acknowledgement of what happened, of what we both did to each other, of where we are now. She took it with shaking hands. Can I read it? Not now. Later, when you are alone. She nodded, holding the letter like it was something fragile. Thank you for being here today, she said, for talking to me. I know how hard this must be. It is hard. It is the hardest thing I have done in years. But it is necessary. Will I see you again after today? I did not know how to answer that. I do not know. I need time. I need to figure out who I am when I am not consumed by anger at you. That is fair. She paused. Your son is beautiful. I saw him at the service. He looks like you. Thank you. Your kids, they seem good, resilient. They are surviving. That is about all I can manage right now. We stood there awkwardly, not sure how to end this conversation. Not sure what came next. I should go, I said finally. Owen is waiting. My son will be getting restless. Of course, Lindsay. She stopped and swallowed. Thank you for the letter. For today. For not hating me quite as much as you should. I do hate you, I said honestly. But I am trying not to let it define me anymore. I walked away then, back to Owen and my son, back to my life. As I walked, I heard her crying again, alone at our mother's grave, holding a letter that contained years of pain distilled into a few pages. It was not healing. It was not closure. But it was a first step towards something, toward not being enemies, even if we would never be sisters again. 3 years have passed since my mother's funeral. 3 years of carefully maintained distance of healing that happened so slowly you barely notice it until you look back and realize how far you have come. I never told my sister about the money. Every month, I transfer funds to my father's account with specific instructions. For the kids' school supplies, clothes, activities. He knows it is from me. She does not. It is easier that way. I am not doing it for her. I am doing it for those 3 children who did not ask to be born into this mess. My sister got a job about 6 months after the funeral. Nothing glamorous. She works at a warehouse doing inventory. It is honest work. She lives in a small apartment now, alone. The kids stay with her during the week and with their father on weekends. From what my father tells me, she is in therapy, weekly sessions, working through everything, trying to become someone different, someone better. I am in therapy too, once a month now, down from twice a week. We talk about forgiveness, about healing, about letting go of the need to control everything, about being a better mother to my son by not passing down the darkness of my past. My father lives alone in the house I grew up in. It is too big for him now, full of memories and ghosts. My sister visits on Tuesdays. I visit on Thursdays. We never overlap. It is an unspoken agreement, a boundary we both respect. Until his birthday. My father turned 70 this year. Owen convinced me we should go to the party he was having. Small, just family, nothing dramatic. I almost said no, but my son asked if we were going to see Grandpa, and I could not think of a good reason to refuse. We showed up at 100. My sister and her kids were already there. The moment I walked in with Owen and my son, everything got quiet. Not uncomfortable, just careful. Everyone was aware of the fragility of the moment. My sister was in the kitchen helping set up food. She looked up when we entered, and for a split second, I saw fear in her eyes. Fear that I would leave. Fear that my presence meant conflict. Fear that we were about to ruin our father's birthday. I nodded at her. She nodded back. And that was it. Our kids gravitated toward each other immediately, the way children do. My 6-year-old son and her 10-year-old started playing with some building blocks. Her younger two joined in. They laughed and built towers and knocked them down, completely oblivious to the history that separated their mothers. My sister and I stayed on opposite sides of the room. We did not speak directly, but we were civil to each other through our father. Could you pass this to your sister? Tell her thank you for bringing the cake. Small interactions. Mediated. Safe. At one point, my nephew, the oldest, the one I had met in the hospital, came up to me. "Hi, Aunt Lindsay," he said shyly. My heart clenched. "Hi. Your son is really nice. Can we be friends?" I looked over at my sister. She was watching us, her expression unreadable. "Yes," I said. "You can be friends." Later, after cake and presents and awkward small talk, I found myself standing in the backyard watching all the kids play together. My sister came out a few minutes later, stood about 10 feet away from me, and watched them too. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then she said quietly, "Thank you." "For what?" "For the money. I know it is from you. Dad is terrible at keeping secrets." I did not confirm or deny it. "My therapist says I need to accept help without analyzing the motives behind it," she continued. "That is hard for me, but I am trying, so thank you. It has helped. It is for the kids." I know, but still, we watched my son teach her daughter how to do a cartwheel. She was terrible at it, but he was patient, demonstrating over and over. "They do not know," my sister said, "about us, about everything that happened. I have not told them. Neither has my son. He knows he has an aunt and cousins, but not the whole story. Maybe they never need to know. Maybe we can let them just be cousins. Let them have what we destroyed." I thought about that, about the weight of family history, about cycles of pain and revenge, about whether it was possible to break those cycles. "We will never be sisters again," I said. It was not cruel, just honest. "I know," she said. "But we do not have to be enemies either." She looked at me then, really looked at me. "No, we do not. I do not forgive you. I do not know if I ever will. I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I do not hate you anymore. Not the way I used to. I am just tired of carrying it." Me too. My son called out then, asking me to watch him do something. I waved and told him I was watching. When I looked back, my sister had moved slightly closer. Not much, just enough that we were standing together rather than separately. "Maybe this is enough," she said quietly. "Maybe we do not need to be family in the traditional sense. Maybe we can just coexist for them." I looked at our children playing together, laughing, building something new that had nothing to do with what we had destroyed. Maybe I agreed. Maybe that is enough. We stood there in that backyard, two women who had destroyed each other and been destroyed in return, watching our children play in the ruins of what used to be a family. We were not healed. We were not reconciled. We were not sisters, but we had stopped being enemies. And for the sake of those kids, the innocent ones, who deserved better than the war we had waged, maybe that was enough. Maybe it had to be enough. Because the alternative, continuing the cycle, passing down the hatred, teaching our children that betrayal was unforgivable and revenge was justice, was a legacy neither of us wanted to leave. So we stood there, together but separate, broken but trying, not sisters, but not enemies. And somewhere in that complicated middle ground, maybe there was something like peace.